Hello. Today's videos will be on theories of sleep. It's page 154 to 155 in our textbooks. And this would be the main feature of the restoration theory, identifying and explaining these two areas of sleep. As we discuss this further, the essay will be broken down into slow wave sleep and REM. Now, we'll start straight away with slow wave sleep and bodily repair. So, evidence that slow wave sleep enables body repair comes from the idea that growth hormone is released during this stage of sleep. Now, growth hormone is a hormone that stimulates growth in animals or plant cells, and this is secreted from the pituitary gland. Now, growth hormone stimulates growth, enables protein synthesis, cell growth, and tissue regeneration, which is all vital for the body, and especially because of the damage that we've done throughout the day. Evidence that supports this is Van Cooter and Platt in 1996, who found a positive correlation between growth hormone and slow wave sleep. What does this mean for us? It means that there is a relationship between slow wave sleep and growth hormone. Which obviously is starting to strengthen the idea that slow wave sleep is essential for bodily repair. Sassin et al. In 1969, when the sleep-wake cycle was reversed, so was the release of the growth hormone. So this shows that the mechanism for growth hormone release is associated with slow wave sleep. So this is really just strengthening this relationship between slow wave sleep and the restoration theory, because growth hormone is released during slow wave sleep, which then allows the body to repair itself, and for protein synthesis, cell regeneration, etc., all starts to happen as a result. Just went to sleep faster. Obviously, this is contradictory information to what we've just seen on the previous slide. So what does this mean for us? Therefore, it's contradicting the original research. It just means that we don't get more sleep, we just go to sleep faster, which means we go through those sleep phases quicker, entering into slow wave sleep, which then leads the body to repair itself. So it means that we've got to develop and alter the original theory to accommodate this new information that Horn and Maynard found. But overall, it's still saying that the restoration happens within slow wave sleep as a result. Now, we've got some extra evidence here coming from Kruger et al. In 1985. Now, a lack of slow wave sleep is linked to reduced immune system functioning, so the antibodies are regenerated during cell growth and protein synthesis in slow wave sleep. Now, what does this mean? That obviously if we don't have sleep, we're going to have some negative side effects happen to our health. So, what does this mean? There is a health benefit for slow wave sleep, and this is supported by the restoration theory, and therefore making it more credible, as individuals that do not have enough sleep will have a reduced immune functioning as a result. We're moving on to the REM portion of the essay. Now, A1 here, REM enables brain recovery. So there's a relationship between neurodevelopment and REM sleep. As we know by now, when babies are growing and they go to sleep, they generally have more REM sleep as a result. This is due to their rapid brain growth. Now, Siegel 2003 brings evidence to support this and shows this through the use of animals. So we've got platypus here, who's immature at birth and needs almost 8 hours of REM sleep, whereas dolphins, seemingly more mature in terms of their brain development, need almost no REM sleep at all. This for us is just really demonstrating the point here that REM is essential for brain growth. So therefore, when we've got immature babies such as the platypus or a human baby, REM sleep is crucial to ensure that the brain recovers, the brain develops and matures accordingly, and it fixes all the damage that has happened throughout the day as well, which we'll look at further in this video. Making those neurotransmitters transmit more efficiently, taking up REM's usual job, which that just means further for us that actually we can establish that relationship between REM and brain growth and neuron efficiency. Because when we've got a drug that is replacing or doing that job, we no longer need REM sleep. Whilst when we're not on this drug, we need REM sleep to ensure that this efficiency, this neuron activity is being maintained as a result. So, what does this mean for us? it increases the relationship between REM sleep and brain restoration, therefore making the restoration theory more credible and valid as a result, because we can see this evidence emerging from the side effects of this drug. Now, we've got some extra evidence here to really propel and support the restoration theory to an extent. Now, case studies have shown slow wave sleep and REM to be absolutely crucial and important. Example of this is with Peter Tripp, who was awake for 201 hours. As a result, he suffered from severe hallucinations and paranoia. In the textbook, I know it states that he was fine after he had a long sleep. However, it did have a long-lasting impact on his life. Led to him having a near enough personality change as a result. What does this show us? It shows that there is negative implications if we do not get enough sleep. So we are going to suffer from hallucinations and paranoia because we've got that emerging and that building up damage happening to our brain, which is only going to lead to negative side effects, which really propels Kruger's idea that slow wave sleep is a health benefit. Whilst we've got Randy Gardner here, who's awake for 260 hours, notably a lot longer than Peter Tripp. But he suffered no significant psychological symptoms. So really we've got to think about, why did he suffer no negative psychological symptoms? Maybe there was something else that was stopping it. And what we tend to argue that was what Randy Gardner was more inclined to do was have bouts of microsleep. Now, microsleep is a temporary episode of sleep which may last for a fraction of a second or up to 30 seconds when an individual fails to respond to some arbitrary sensory input and becomes unconscious. So grabbing those fleeting moments of microsleep means that Randy Gardner might have been able to have that damage being repaired as a result. So for us, we can immediately see here that, okay, Peter Tripp is definitively showing us a relationship, whilst Randy Gardner is saying maybe there is something else at play that is actually doing that repair, and it can be just for a couple of seconds that can undo some severe damage. Now, we've got some new research that has emerged as a response to examiners' comments. Now, this is Exiotel in 2013. He supports the idea that sleep has evolved for the pure purpose of restoration, and he found this when looking at his research with the glymphatic system. Now, he discovered when we sleep, the glymphatic system uses this time to remove toxins from the brain that may have a negative side effect on our mental health. For an example, it removes amyloid beta, which is a protein fragment which has been linked to Alzheimer's. Now, due to everything that Xe's putting forward here, that, okay, this is modern research, so it's really demonstrating that the restoration theory, to a degree, is more credible because we've still got evidence emerging that is supporting what we already know that has already been suggested by previous researchers. As well as that, we're discovering new systems that are really propelling it forward. So the glymphatic system, for example, is now being associated with the restoration theory because it's removing these toxins, which then means the brain is being restored and it's going back up to 100% as a result. Now, for this, we have evolved for the pure purpose of restoration. That is what sleep what sleep is for. It is primarily a restoration. However, we do have another side of the argument to look at for this essay. The other side of the argument that we have to look at for this essay is the evolutionary theory. Now, evolutionary explanation. So evolutionary psychology is a discipline that studies how universal patterns of behaviour and cognitive processes have evolved over time as a result of natural selection. So it's choosing who to breed with to ensure that certain characteristics continue. So variations and adaptations in cognition, so thinking and behaviour, make individuals more or less successful in reproducing and passing their genes to their offspring. So there are various theories which are important for the evolutionary theory. Now, Zeppelin in 1974 found that smaller animals with higher metabolic rates sleep more than larger animals. This supports the view that energy conservation might be the main reason for sleep, as we are starting to see that high metabolic rates, animals that hold them, actually need the sleep. However, there are many exceptions for this rule. So, for example, sloths. Sloths in captivity are very large animals, yet they sleep for 20 hours a day. Remember that there is an error in the textbook relating to the sloths. Now, sloths in captivity sleep for 20 hours a day, but when they are in the wild, they sleep for 9.3 hours a day. Now, in the essay, choose one of these sloths to include in the essay. However, ensure you're using the words in captivity or in the wild, because as we can see from this evidence, they have got very different sleep patterns as a result. So energy conservation does not provide us with a complete picture as to why we sleep. It starts to give us some understanding as to why we sleep as an evolutionary function. However, it doesn't give us everything. And to an extent, can this be applied to humans? It's very debatable. Perhaps an instinctual explanation such as predator avoidance provides more of a detailed reasoning as to why animals and possibly humans sleep as a result. Let's have a look. Predator avoidance. If an animal is a predator, then it can sleep for longer, whereas for prey species, their sleep time is reduced as they must remain vigilant to avoid predators. If sleep is a vital function, then they are best to sleep when least vulnerable. Predator avoidance starts to give us some explanation as to why prey might sleep a bit longer, because they've got to be awake when their predators are most active as a result. However, Lescu in 2006, he suggests that there is no relationship between the amount of time a species spends in deep sleep and its predation risk. So what does this new modern evidence do for us? From the modern research, we now doubt that predator avoidance can be considered a valid explanation for why humans, and to a degree, animals, sleep. Therefore, there must be other evolutionary theories that are more credible and provide a better explanation as to why these animals and humans sleep as a result. We've looked at the example of herbivores, but carnivores such as cats and dogs eat food that is high in nutrients and calories, and so do not need to eat continuously. So they don't need to spend forever foraging and looking for food. Therefore, they can afford to rest most of the time, and by resting, they're conserving energy as a result. So maybe energy conservation does have a part to play, depending on the diet that they are consuming. The explanation gives some examples and detail as to why animals sleep, and starting to link into other theories such as energy conservation. Now, the explanation given for foraging requirements does not explain wholly why humans choose to sleep. To an extent, we don't have to forage, so there might be something else that is dictating our sleep as an evolutionary tactic. Therefore, this research has its limitations, as it cannot be applied to all mammalian sleep patterns. So we've really got to consider this and really propel this forward in our essay. Perhaps medicine's waste of time theory provides a better understanding as to the sleep habits of humans as a result of the evolutionary tactics that we've employed as we've evolved. Just some additional AO2 for the foraging requirements. So Capellini and her research team in 2008 argue that the previous research was flawed because the methods used to collect data on sleep in different animals were not standardised, and therefore comparisons between species were meaningless. So they carefully started to select data from studies using only standardised procedures, e.g. animals in lab conditions. The study focused on only land mammals because unilateral sleep in aquatic mammals, so the different style of sleeping patterns, involves different sleep patterns as a result. So we'll look at this further. Sleeping, because an animal is more likely to be injured as a result. And the main function of sleep is that it enables both energy conservation and keeping the individual out of danger. So energy conservation and predator avoidance may be correct and linked in with this theory. In the wild, the best strategy for passing your genes is to be asleep for as long as you can so you can get away with it. And this is exactly what you see. The example that we see this with is the little brown bat. So the little brown bat is awake for just a few hours each day, only when the insects that it eats are awake. This is an adapted behaviour. The bat is a small mammal with a high metabolic rate and should therefore eat as much of the time as it can and sleep for only a short time as a result to what the other theories suggest. However, the brown bat doesn't need to do this because it can get enough food in a few hours. In fact, being awake at any other time would have no value. Therefore, the bat can afford to sleep a lot. And throughout this time where its predators are asleep, the bats are also reproducing. So therefore, they're passing their genes on. So using both of these adaptive functions to really propel this species forward as a result. Now, the EE for this is quite possible that sleep serves no single universally adaptive function, and the different species have evolved different sleep patterns as a response to the unique evolutionary pressures that they encounter in their environment. So, while we have discussed the negative outcomes associated with sleep deprivation, it should be pointed out that there are many benefits that are associated with adequate amounts of sleep. So, for example, adequate amounts of sleep, the little brown bat has got a lot of benefits that are happening as a result. They are sleeping for a lot longer, they're not consuming as much as they should do, and they are still reproducing enough to continue the growth of their population. So we've got to consider this when we are looking at the different reasons for sleep. However, we've got a different angle that we are going to approach in the conclusion of this essay. Accurate for our bodily repair.